everybody, welcome back to The Limit Breakdown, where we break down the latest in TV, movies, and everything going on in entertainment. I'm your host, Migs.
I'm Sid.
And today we're going to be reviewing Avatar, Way of the Water. Our too long, didn't watch review on this movie. Visually stunning, excellent world building.
However, it had a paper-thin plot, and it was basically a rehash of the first movie.
So we are going to be giving Avatar, Way of the Water 3.5 hearts. Stay tuned after the intro for our in-depth dive into this movie, and check us out.
Everybody, to our deep dive review of Avatar 2 Way of the Water. So, Migs, what did you think of this movie?
Okay, so this movie is divisive in its reception. I've seen very little middle ground. There are people that love it, and there are people that are unimpressed by it. I'm gonna be completely honest. Maybe I'm easy to please. But I really enjoyed it. We gave it a 3.5 overall. I personally would have given it a little bit of a higher grade. I thought the visuals were absolutely stunning.
I agree.
The cinematography was very, very great. Obviously it's been, 13 years since the last Avatar?
2009, so yeah.
Yeah.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, so it's, the improvements that we've made in CGI, like I recently rewatched the first Avatar, and it still holds fairly well.
Yeah.
But the fact that this movie still kind of was able to blow me away. In the first couple of sequences, it was kind of similar territory, but as soon as they got into the underwater shots, like that was just miles above anything else I've seen. Where it does get a little bit weaker is the plot line isn't as great as it could have been, but I feel like it built the foundation. Now, there's a criticism out there that I think is a valid one, whereas the first Avatar movie was more of a self-contained story, whereas this one, you can tell that it's setting up future movies. And
Correct.
So I think that was much more to the detriment. So it felt like an incomplete story. With that being said, it's very difficult to make a 3-hour plus movie that's fully engaging. And at least myself, I was fully engaged the entire time that I was in the theater.
Fair. Yeah, I agree with you there. The movie overall, there was no point specifically where it was kind of like a lull moment. Yes, it was a little bit slower, but it wasn't really lull moments where I'm like, okay, I can go use the restroom or go get some popcorn or something. And I agree with you with the cinematography being fantastic. It was very beautiful. It's just like the first movie. Great visual effects. Overall, so Avatar, at least now they're calling the Avatar series, because what James Cameron is basically doing is making a whole series. There are going to be 5 movies in total, so the first 2 just came out, obviously, and he's going to make 3 more, and overall these movies have been cost.
If I'm not mistaken, Avatar 2, which is this one, and 3 were filmed simultaneously. They were filmed at the same time, so I think part 3 is supposed to be releasing 2024, and it took $1 billion to make both of them, mind you. Now it was $1 billion to make both, and they bought this huge aquarium type thing, built the aquarium to do the shoots. So I can see where the money was spent to do that. How they changed the Na'vi people that were the jungle people to the I forgot their name. It starts with a T. Basically the sea people. How each of them looks slightly different, right? Yeah.
So their arms are a little bit thicker for them to swim with.
The tails are
flatter.
Their feet are webbed. Yeah.
Their feet are webbed. They have tattoos, kind of like the Polynesian tribes. So those details I found really interesting and very compelling. Should they have been a little bit darker because they're in the sun? We'll leave that.
Yeah, because they were actually lighter.
They were a lighter
shade of blue.
But whatever. Maybe the atmosphere works different up there. That attention details really good. The animals in there, all the new animals you come across, the ones they ride, the little fly fish looking thing, the giant whales that that befriend. Those were amazing, right? They're like they basically told a child to draw, and they're like, here you go. I loved all of that part.
Yeah.
What I didn't like was the overall story, and the fact that they had the same villain, but now he is the one thing he wanted to destroy.
Yeah.
So he became the thing he wanted to destroy, and it's the same villain. Nothing compelling. In the first movie, they were after unobtainium. Such an original name. Unobtainium. Now they're after this whale oil. Basically the same thing. And they're leaving the whales, to die or whatever. I did not like that part. It was not compelling in the slightest. They had a final battle at the end, which was the exact same. All about family values. Exact same. The tribe didn't accept them at first, but they accepted them as Sandra. Exact same.
Okay. So, let me tell you why you're wrong.
Let me pull up my podium. Let me take notes.
Welcome to my TED Talk. No, so let me start by saying this. Yes, I agree with you that the plot line was very simplistic. I agree that them bringing back basically the same, well, not basically, the same villain is a little bit lazy. Unless, and hear me out on this, right? Unless they do what I hope that they do with this villain. Because, the whole storyline with them bringing the Colonel back as a Na'vi avatar, right, is basically, it was an insurance policy. Right, they right before the end of the final battle in the first movie, right? The Colonel records a message and basically uploads his entire memory into this memory card that they're shipping back to Earth, and they're basically basically creating an avatar of the Colonel with the memories of him up until that point implanted, right? So they did this with several of the soldiers. So they have like a whole military squad, right? Yeah. So they're basically using them to infiltrate the Na'vi and basically take out Jake Sully.
Jake Sully.
Right. And so here's my thing, right? One of the things that's very compelling about the Colonel was how he did things for his own reason. He did things for his own purpose. His purpose, whether you agreed with it or not, was to enrich himself and to forward, the cause of mankind. One of the reasons why he hated Jake Sully so much was because he saw him as a traitor who basically betrayed the human race to get some, blue poom poom. So, hey, he said it, maybe not in those words, but anyway, but I think the fact that they are clones with memories uploaded makes a very interesting possibility of what could happen. Because, obviously this is a spoiler review, but he almost dies, right? One of the key plot points is the fact that his son, Spider, was left behind on Pandora. Right, and he's like, oh, I thought you would have been sent back to Earth. He's like, you can't put babies in cryosleep, so no. Which I don't know how I feel about that one. It's like, cause you can't put a baby in cryosleep, but like, you could have gone back as a toddler. You didn't have to keep him, but neither here nor there. But
there was no second ship back. So once that first ship left, there was nothing coming back.
Okay, yeah. But having Spider be that connecting tissue, right, between whatever was left of the Colonel's humanity, and I think the avatars pose a very interesting conundrum because now it's like they're basically slaves to that corporation.
Yeah.
So anytime they're killed, they can just be recloned and re-brought back. So, you know, him and Jake fought. Jake choked him out underwater. He should have died. Spider sees him, and even though he hates him, he can't bring himself to leave him there to die.
Yeah, because they spent time together in the movie.
Yeah. They did take the time to build that relationship, and and he even, you know, there were parts where he even grew to admire the Colonel when, you know, when they were up in those cliffs where the flying like dragon things,
the gliders,
and you know he's gonna shoot one of them with the tranquilizer to try to tame it, and he's like, man, you know, Jake Sully wouldn't have done that.
He did it with his bare hands.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, so he did it the hard way, fine. And the fact that he was able to do it and tame one of them, like, is like, yo, that's respect. Like, you could see it in his face. You could see it, like, as much as he didn't want to, like, he was finding redeeming qualities in this man. And then, you know, the fact that in that showdown between, oh, God, I forget her name, Zoe Saldana's character.
Yes.
Anyway, Jake Sully's wife.
Yes.
When she holds the knife to Spider's neck at the climax, and he's like, oh, you know, I don't give a damn about him. And when you see that she's really gonna kill him, and he is like, no, like, so he actually does genuinely care. Yeah, he actually does genuinely care for Spider. So I think the implications there are going to be, how far is he willing to go for the corporation now that he is one of the Na'vi? How far is he willing to sell himself out, especially when he realizes what he's become? Because, you know, the original version of the Colonel, he was doing it all on his own terms. This is a younger clone, if you will. So it'd be interesting. And then, I don't remember, you know, obviously I've been watching lots of content gearing up to this, and one of the videos that I recently watched brought up a very interesting argument. And with them being able to clone people into Na'vi bodies, like the original reason Jake Sully was in Pandora was because his brother died.
Correct.
And he was the only one who was genetically compatible with the Avatar.
Gotcha.
So what if they bring his brother back?
That'd be pretty interesting.
So you can see what the buildup is going towards the other movies, but I also thought that it was very, very well done that they are introducing the new generation, introducing the Sully's kids, each of them unique and each having their own characteristics and their own you know, set of skills, pros, cons, and all that. And the movie was mainly focused around them. It wasn't really like Jake.
It was a family thing. Yeah, and I agree. And
so, you know, it was a coming of age story based on those kids. They played front and center until the climax when you know, the big battle, which I thought that action sequence was top notch.
Gotcha. So before we continue about action sequence at the end, because I want to touch on that too. I want to backtrack on a few points that I just thought about what you said. So one thing I found interesting was the whole time, actually they said in the beginning of the movie, so they Jake Sully and Neytiri had 3 kids.
Yes.
The first one looked like a normal Na'vi. The other 2 were hybrids because they had 4 fingers. Usually they have 3. And then they were talking about Spider, and you know, Jake is like, yeah, you know, he's one of the human boys that plays with us, but Neytiri thinks of him like a stray cat that just keeps coming back. And I was like, he's gonna have some moment. And then you go to the ending where you're talking about where Neytiri holds the knife to his chest. She really does not care about that child.
No.
And so when they finally find him,
he's her Jon Snow.
Yeah. When they finally find him and they're all collecting together as a family, again, he's like on his own. He's rescuing his dad. No one even asks where he is.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, hey, you're back. Cool. Like, they do not care about him at all, which I found hysterical.
Well, I wouldn't say they don't care about him at all. There was even
not
a part,
at all, but
there was even a part towards the end where Jake, embraced him and
at the very end.
At the very end where he's just like, a son for a son. Yeah.
Yeah, which makes sense, but still, they were just like.
I didn't like the way the older son died. I thought it just seems so heroic. Yeah, it just seems so random. Like, yeah. Like just a random stray bullet, basically.
Fair. Yeah, that was kind of weird. Because he was supposed to be a little bit more of a warrior than his other brother, who was, the wild child. Speaking of child, the third child, Kiri.
Yeah.
So in the movie, she is a child of
she's the Pandora Jesus figure.
Yeah,
so Immaculate Conception.
Yes, and then you see, and I'm like, that's kind of weird. So you see in the movie, she basically has a connection to Awa.
Mm-hmm.
And then throughout the movie, they show that she's just enamored, just like the Doctor was in the first movie, by everything in Pandora. She's just enamored by anything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything and anything. And then when she's moving the jellyfish and the stuff and the water, and at the end when she rescues her family, I actually really like that. So it showed that she has a deeper connection, and then the first movie kind of brings the Doctor back, because Awa tried to revive her.
Well, she's played by the same actress.
Correct. So Sigourney Weaver played her. I was like, that voice sounds familiar. So basically, Awa did take her and then just put her in that body, which that part I really did like. Now, the finale. So big bad battle. The bad guys have Spider. Obviously, they have captured 2 of the kids, and now
these kids keep getting captured. Oh my god, I got so annoyed by the amount of times that these kids got captured and got away and got captured and got away and then got captured again. It's like, how many times are you gonna get tied up to the same freaking post?
Yeah. But that scene, that battle, I really liked. I loved how the outcast whale that the middle son had befriended.
Yes.
And they show his story, which I thought was actually pretty cool. He went inside the mouth and like connected.
Yeah, because that's where the link was inside the mouth. Yeah.
I thought that was actually pretty cool. And they tell you in the movie, they're like, well, these creatures are actually extremely smart. And the guy's like, well, who's the one with a harpoon? And then at the end, that whale just blows everybody.
Wrecks him.
Jumps on the ship. Then like
one thing that I thought was really cool was it was showing like the main reason they attached them with like airbags underneath is to flip them on their back, because their outer shell on the front is like hard as steel.
Yeah.
And like one of the at one point Spider asks the hunters, he's like, have any of these, he's like, are you not worried that they might attack you at some point? He goes, oh, these guys never fight back. He's like, well, what if one of them did? He's like, he's like, that'd be a bad day.
Yeah. And then they do. And then one whale just wrecks them the whole time. He throws the harpoon, like knits his head down. And then the arm rip. I forgot the arm. That wraps the wire around.
Gnarly. That was such a gnarly kill.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. So I did enjoy the fight scene. I will say that the fight sequence was really well choreographed.
Or animated.
Well, it was choreographed, and then they still did. They did it at motion capture.
I mean, that's again another highlight. Keep mentioning how beautiful the movie is, but just like there were so many points where like if I was 6 years old and someone told me, hey, those are actual 8 foot tall blue people that are being recorded, I'd have been like, damn. Like we've gotten to a point technologically speaking as far as making these movies where it's like, man,
you can't tell.
Yeah. I mean, we probably won't feel that way in about 10 years, but...
Hey man, VR is gonna be a thing. So next movie, you're probably gonna be watching a little VR set.
I did see it in 3D, which I thought was...
same. And you know, I'm not a fan of 3D at all. I don't like 3D movies because I don't think they're that compelling. It kind of messes with my eyes. But this movie actually did as far as 3D goes, they did a really good job. Like, it was very. At no point was I was like, you know, like in certain 3D movies, they have purposeful 3D moments. Like they'll have a pen that goes,
yeah,
and then so you're like, oh my god. But it wasn't purposely like that. It was done very dynamically. Like this character's in the front, that character's in the back. This coral reef is in the front, the fish is in the back. And that just, you know, the nod to how well their cinematography, visual effects were. Sorry.
This movie had a lot. I mean, obviously outside of the monetary aspect of it, because I think in order for this movie to break even, they need to generate over $1 billion.
Yeah.
In revenue, which is ridiculous. That not just to break even. But aside from that, you know, the expectations were through the roof. Aside from the fact that it's been 13 years since the last, since the last movie, it's previously was the highest grossing film of all time. So there was a lot of expectations going into this film. I was cautiously skeptical. I honestly didn't really know how I was going to feel. Like, I enjoyed the first movie, but I wasn't like, oh my god, I love it, this is the best thing ever.
Correct.
But it was a great movie, and I feel like if you liked the first movie, you're gonna like this one. It's a good continuation of the story. I can see what they're setting up for the next.
Great world building.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because now you can see that there's possibly other species right out there.
Yeah, so I can before this movie came out, having just watched the original Avatar and hearing it's like, oh, James Cameron is planning 4 or 5 sequels for this. I didn't see it. I didn't see how you could draw that much from this. Coming out of this, I absolutely see it.
Yeah, because you just rehashed the first movie. So,
No, but I mean, they did rehash the first movie, but they also built upon it.
I can see the world building. To me, the plot was still more or less exactly the same. Sully's family was trying to integrate into the Water Tribe. In the first movie, Sully was integrated to the Na'vi tribe. The purposes were different, but still integration. Bad guy wants the bad stuff. Well, bad guy in the original movie wanted unobtainium. In this movie, same guy, but he just wants to kill Sully. But they're still after the oil.
Yeah.
And then at the end, there's a big fight. And Sully and the Colonel have a one-on-one.
They kind of glossed over it, which it didn't really make sense to me. But the plan has changed from mining in Pandora to colonizing Pandora. Correct,
because Earth is dying.
Yeah.
And specifically that oil apparently can cure a lot of diseases.
It says it stops aging.
It stops aging, sorry. It stops aging completely, which is insane.
Yeah. So, because they were saying that the amount that they get off of one whale is worth like 80 million.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But, it's kind of a very short-sighted thing because it's like, you're going to hunt these whales out of existence and then what are you going to do?
But reproducing them.
I guess.
In a container. But, there's one funny point that I want to point out. So, obviously, when the first movie came out, Avatar, people thought it was Avatar, The Last Airbender, the TV show, because that movie came out around the same time. Or the movie came out around the same time. M. Night Shyamalan had to change the title of the movie to The Last Airbender because of James Cameron, right? And then we realized in the first movie, they're in the jungle. In this movie, they're in the water. The Avatar is about controlling all 4 elements. There's 5 movies in total. So either volcanoes are next or deserts. Maybe the air people are next. So Avatar, they're basically just making Avatar The Last Airbender. Avatar The Last Jungle.
But
I just found that funny.
So, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Very entertaining movie. Very visually appealing. I enjoyed watching it. I did not like the plot, and I did not like how they brought the Colonel back. So I would watch it if it was on TV. I'd watch it again because it was very entertaining. But overall, I would not give it a high score.
I really enjoyed it. I was thoroughly entertained. You know, I, as we've been doing these reviews, we've been watching more and more movies and become more and more critical over the entertainment that we consume. Like, you know, I was wary of going into a movie with a 3-hour plus runtime. I was like, I don't want to fall asleep, but it was one of those things where like it kept me fully engaged the whole time. The plot was paper thin. But I think that they laid enough foundations to where I'm excited to see what the next chapter brings.
I'm still gonna watch them.
Yeah,
I'm still gonna watch them.
So I think that was the intended purpose. I think there is a version of this movie that told a more singularly focused tale that didn't focus so much on setting up sequels. That probably would have been a better movie. But I think that this product is not that far off, and I think in 5-10 years, once we have the complete body of work, I think watching these movies in a sequence is going to be a different experience.
Yeah.
So I'm going to attempt to reserve a little bit of judgment for when the next couple ones come out. But like I said, the basic job of it was to build the world, to get you excited for the next installment, and I think they achieved that.
Yeah, fair enough. Fun fact, which I should have mentioned earlier, this is completely off. James Cameron is actually one of the few people who have been to the deepest point of the ocean.
Oh.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
He is just randomly, he got this, a submarine, and he had this whole thing, and he funded it himself.
Was he searching for it?
He just...
For the heart of the ocean.
I know, that's where he got the inspiration from, maybe. But yeah, he's one of the few people that's been into the deepest point of the ocean.
Since you have a fun point, I have a fun point. So, Kate Winslet, who plays the wife of the leader of the Water Tribe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was her when I first watched it, but she famously said that she would never work with James Cameron again.
Made her famous in the original Titanic movie.
Yeah, over complaints of how rigorous his work schedule was on Titanic. And but you know what they say, plata talks. And they pulled out the checkbook and they signed a big enough check to get her to go, all right, James. And but she broke Tom Cruise's record for holding her breath underwater. She now holds the world record for the longest underwater filming at 7.5 minutes.
God dang.
Yeah, she broke that while filming. So
that's ridiculous.
There's a short of her coming out from under the water after filming of that, and they're checking on her, and the first thing she says is, "Am I dead?"
That's wow. I did not know. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, fun fact on your fun fact. When the first Avatar was written, they offered the role to Matt Damon for the main character, for Jake Sully. And James Cameron was like, and I will pay you royalties on top. So I'll do your salary, and then I'll pay you royalties on top. At that time, he was filming the last of the Identity movies, I think. Born Supremacy, I think.
Yeah.
So he's like, I would love to, but I can't because I have a commitment. And that was the biggest monetary mistake of his life. So instead of Sam Worthington, it would have been Matt Damon. You would have been seeing an Avatar.
Oh,
by the way. Any other fun facts yet?
No, I'm fun fact out.
Fair enough. Well, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Catch us next time. On that, thank you guys for watching.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to the video. Check us out on all of our different podcast platforms, on here on YouTube, on TikTok, all the other things. So we appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you next time with our next review.